Hi, I'm Pop Tart.
And I'm Miss Tonin, and welcome to Quarantine Time
with
Pop and Sarah.
Aww.
Speaking of Elsa, like
Frozen, love it.
People call them overrated, but
I love the Frozen films. Both.
This is going to be sound so pathetic, but Let It Go became a bit of a gay anthem.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
That song came out right when I needed to hear, not just as a gay man, but as a drag queen.
Yeah.
Don't be what other people want you to be. But have you seen the second one?
Yeah, I have. I love it.
Yeah, it's really
Show Yourself. I watched it for the first time when James was away, and I was just watching it on my own. Show Yourself had me bawling.
Yeah.
Because my biggest core mental health issue is, for the past 10, 12 years, I've been waiting for someone to tell me who I am and what I should be doing.
Yes.
Whereas Show Yourself, the whole point of that song is when she finally gets there,
it's her.
you are the one you've been waiting for. And this is going to get me on to quite a rant now, but something that I absolutely...
Before you go on that, my favourite song in Frozen 2 is Lost in the Wood. Just because of the way that it's done. Yeah. Where it's like he's in a band. It's so cool. It's just
Also, Next Right Thing is literally telling you how to deal with depression and grief and loss. And it's like,
they're really good films.
Something that really gets on my wick, and through my husband being like, a PhD level Cambridge graduate intellectual, I meet people like this with him all the time who are like, they poo-poo like kids stories because they're like, it's just really very simple. And we've got this idea now. We tell our kids stories about how, just be good and be true to yourself and try really hard and try and be kind and things will be okay. The second you are old enough to vote, that is for kids, that's not for you anymore. Yeah. And you're not an adult unless you enjoy stuff that's just about despair and failing and things like I don't get me wrong, I love American Horror Story.
Yeah,
but it's all about people trying their best, failing, but then also giving up, giving into addiction. And those are the stories we're meant to like, because, and it's all, one of the things I love in Terry Pratchett's writing, and one of his stories, Witches Abroad, he talks about how stories are alive and they consume people. And if the same story has been told so many times, it becomes so alive that if you accidentally become part of that narrative, you can't escape it. Yeah, and that's how media and governments control people. We tell kids archetypes. We show kids these stories when they're young. One with the old sort of grim fairy tale, don't go walking in the woods alone, a wolf might eat you. Or, some predatory thing might take advantage of you or hurt you. But once you become an adult, it's just a case of, the world's grim. You're not that special because you're having a hard time. And then I will talk to people and just be like, I tried to talk to people about that response I had to the songs in Frozen. And they were like, but it's for kids.
No, it's not.
It doesn't work like that. And it's like, the world would work like that if you let it.
Literally.
The thing is, I always hate that because it's there's nothing better than having an afternoon where you just watch kids' TV and Disney movies and stuff, because it really kind of it calms you down. It really calms me down, and I love doing it. I love just flinging on Basil the Great Mouse Detective because it reminds me of
what a fucking film!
What a choice!
I hate this idea that you can't watch cartoons anymore. My dad is 60 and watches cartoons with me all the time.
Yeah.
It's just you can be at any age. I hate the idea of be serious. Look, I loved Years and Years when it came out and loved watching it, but sometimes you just need something easy to watch.
Yeah.
It's like Blair said, I love American Horror Story. I really enjoyed Hollywood on Netflix, but sometimes I want to sit back and I want to cry because Elsa's finally found herself and her group of people. I sobbed during the first film and the second film, and I don't care. I'm not they're great films.
You need a balance, and this idea that you're only an adult if you've given up on hope and wonder and dreams. Speaking of Rise of the Guardians,
but also on that note, Maleficent.
Brilliant.
Have you seen the second one as well?
Yeah, I have. I've seen both of them.
I adore those retellings because as much as I love Disney villains who are just evil for the sake of being. I love that theatrical level of evil when they're so evil but so stylish about it.
Yeah.
That you're on their side, but you still want them to lose. Like you enjoy watching them succeed and lose. But giving this whole idea again of how a narrative can be controlled, it's especially in like the fake news era we're in. It's a really important thing to put out there, especially for for kids.
Yeah. Kids need to realise that you can... well, no, actually, I'll rephrase that. Everybody needs to realise that there isn't a set... This is for adults, this is for kids. You like what you like. Be that with anything. And you can get messages from both sides.
Yes.
There's messages for adults in kids' films, and there's messages for kids in adult films.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think the thing is, and the bottom line of it is, you just need to mind their own freaking business.
Yeah, literally.
If I want to watch old BBC cartoons like Mona the Vampire and watch my chops,
I loved Mona the Vampire. Mona the Vampire. I lived for that. It was so.
Well, when the scene and everything in the world is back to normal, we have to do like a kids show cabaret.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
we do.
But Pop, you have to. Obviously do whatever you want, but as a second number, please just sing, "Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the sea?"
Yeah, I'll just come on for that 30 seconds like, ah!
Lives in a pineapple under the sea, Sarah Tonin.
Fact. Well,
Sarah, out of that entire cast, you're Squidward. You're just going, will you just fuck off?
Fact. The episode where he was like, no, I'm not going to say that, because isn't there an episode where he like tries to hang himself? Like, it was really depressing.
I think there was.
Like, all the episodes, like, it's the episodes that deal with him being like homeless and stuff like that, and like, him not having a job, him kind of like being stuck in like, and being depressed and stuff. Like, there's like I think
very adult themes.
Yeah, there's a lot of complex themes in like a lot of kids' shows. Like, I think people think, oh, it's just haha, they're funny, like hitting stern on head, like, or something like that. But it's like there's actually a lot more complex things and like things you were thinking about now and think, oh yeah, actually.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's like when you rewatch something back and you laugh at a joke that you never got as a kid.
Yeah, and there's like adult humour in cartoons, like sort of sex humour.
I love watching stuff back that I haven't seen since I was a kid and going, Christ on a bike, how'd they get that in? But speaking
sorry, go on.
A couple of kids' films that I've just remembered that I absolutely adore, and they're both on the similar theme of like Mexico's Day of the Dead. There's The Book of Life and Coco.
Yes,
Coco.
yes,
I cried at the end of Coco. I couldn't stop.
Don't spoil Coco because I've not seen Coco.
Okay, but you will love it. But also,
adding it to my Disney Plus watch list now.
I keep messaging Ryan like, can you make me a La Muerte dress from Book of Life? But also, because Guillermo del Toro directed Book of Life, and he directed one of my other favourite films, which is Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which not really a kids' film, but it's a kids' fairy tale.
Yeah.
And like I grew up my first exposure to like the concept of fairy tales wasn't Disney. It was old like Brothers Grimm, and my grandmother had these books of like old Celtic Irish folk tales, and I've still got most of them, and I still read them now. And it's like, I wish that we didn't assume that kids are that delicate, because I think the original concepts are better, and watering them down as much as Disney did could potentially add to a level of naivety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think we kind of assume that kids are stupid now. And that's not right, and it's not the case. Like, kids pick up on a lot more than we give them credit for.
When I was a kid, I was reading well above my like age group.
Yes.
And we had this library bus that came around all the villages. And whenever I get on there, I'd be looking at like teen fiction, and then when I was like 6, and then when I was like 8, I was trying to get to, and then there's just a miserable old wench who ran this library bus just being like, you're probably better for one of those. I'm like, I'm bringing back, like, you know,
War and Peace.
Apparently, War and not quite, but it was like, I know it's not like TV and cartoons, but kids' books that I loved when I was quite young. I hate that I liked it, but Famous Five, but also The Animorphs, that was my jam.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
I think a massive collection of Goosebumps books.
But also, like, Animorphs and Goosebumps got made into TV shows. We're not covered those yet. And they did that Goosebumps movie with Jack Black, which I thought was genius.
The acting in the Goosebumps ones, like the sort of 90s Americans one, was so bad, but it's like bad, you know
That's
what I mean?
what made them good, though.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
I have just reacquired every episode of the original series, but also a couple of years ago they did like a 3-part web series that I'm excited to watch that was based off it. But this is in no way kids related now, but when I was a kid I had a book that I absolutely loved called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yes.
And I lost my copy of it, but recently because the artwork now in the original print was considered too scary for kids. So I forked out 40 quid to get a first edition sent over from America. Jeez. So I could reread it, because they did a movie based on it recently, which is not for kids. But I love those stories. Like I've always
they were good.
Like in many cultures, you have to go a long way back. But horror stories were told as to kids all the time.
Yeah.
But in Japan, they used to tell horror stories in the summer when it was really hot, because it would get too hot and muggy to sleep, and you'd get like chills.
Which is clever, but also this is not a kids show, but I've been talking about this on my Twitch stream so many times and nobody knows this show. But do you remember a show called Fact or Fiction Beyond Belief?
Yes!
Thank you!
That was, they tell you like 4 stories.
It was 4 stories, 15 minutes each. 3 were false and 1 was true, and they were all supernatural and you had to guess which one was true. Amazing.
Look, honestly, I found a streaming site, like one of the dodgy ones, a while back, and it had every episode on, and I re-binged all of it.
They're so
at the beginning of lockdown. But like the guy who hosted it, he'd always like do like these really terrible puns. And then they changed it to someone else who wasn't quite as good. Because originally this guy called Jonathan Frakes, so I think might have been in Star Trek at some point.
Yeah, I think he was. But they were so good. Nobody gets that.
It was always like, it wasn't like, oh, this one was true. It was based on true accounts.
Yeah,
like someone told us this happened to them. But some of them were so good. And like, it was always the one that you thought this is horseshit that was the real one.
Yeah, always.
They used to show that show on Living TV when I was in sixth form.
That's when I watched it.
I'd sit down at like 8 o'clock on an evening and watch Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
I was like 14, 15, and my mum was like, what are you watching? I was like, I'm watching Fact or Fiction, and then when that's over, I'm watching a bit of Rosemary and Thyme. She was like, you know me.
Do you remember Charmed?
Sorry, Bob?
We didn't talk about Rosemary and Thyme in the episode.
Oh, no, we didn't, but I love Rosemary and Thyme.
I used to watch Charmed on Living TV as well.
Charmed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy, I adored that. Like, I guess slightly more like teenage years rather than like kids TV.
Yeah.
But I just loved it. I loved seeing, that was my first real exposure to seeing a female character being the lead and kicking ass.
Yeah, same. Sabrina the Teenage Witch was the one for me. I love the Netflix version of Adventures, but
I adored Salem, but my second favourite was Aunt Hilda.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, too.
I just remember this section when, like, because Sabrina's like, I want to tell Harvey that I'm a witch, and Hilda goes, it doesn't always end well, and it shows her dating Sigmund Freud, and she's like, I got to tell you something that's really difficult. He goes, do you hate your mother? And she went, no. He went, really? I hate your mother. And I was like...
They were great. Unfortunately, we are going to have to stop there unless there was something you wanted to say, Pop. Sorry.
Well, one more thing.
Go on,
I have to mention this iconic show, speaking of scary kids TV show. Grizzly Tales of Gruesome Kids.
Yes.
The old version, not the new one. Like, you know, when they had the stop motion animation in that old theatre.
That was scary. That really fucked me up as a kid. That and the Ghost Catcher.
Ghost Hunter.
Yeah.
Ghost Hunter. I had to watch that with my mum. I loved it, but I was too scared. And she had a vacuum cleaner that would suck up the ghosts. She was just a Dyson. Henry Hoover.
The only show that scared me as a kid was on Art Attack. Whenever that head came on,
yes,
I would run and hide on the stairs. Like, hello, it's me, the head. He freaked the hell. But that's proper Uncanny Valley kind of shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Doctor Who scared me when I was a kid, but this is so stupid. Doctor Who scared me because I thought the Doctor was the bad guy. I was like, everywhere.
Abducting women.
I was like, everywhere he goes, there's a problem. Like, and I used to scream about it. My parents loved it, and I'd hear, and I'd be like, no, turn it off. Like, I hated it.
But the Daleks were peaceful till he rocked up.
And the War of the Worlds as well. My dad loved the radio show and the soundtrack, and it used to terrify me. I still can't listen to the music.
When I was 10, I read the book of Day of the Triffids, and my dad got me the original black and white movie to watch. And it was really good, and it didn't scare me that much. But in that movie, whenever they moved, they make this sort of hollow rattling noise.
Yeah.
And then the next day after watching it, I woke up, and my next-door neighbour had been reassembling a motorcycle from next to nothing for years. Finally turns it on, and it made the same fucking noise. I could have died.
You ran for your life.
I just went. I was at the age where I thought getting under the covers would save your life.
Yeah, when you used to do that thing, your leg would be under the covers, and you'd be like, "Not today, demon. I'm pulling it back."
Like, honestly, like, up until I saw The Grudge, I thought bed was the safest place ever. Do you know Sarah Michelle Gellar had to be trained for that movie, how to run like someone who is scared and not super powerful, because she'd done Buffy for so long?
Oh my god.
They had to get someone to train her how to run like a wuss. But I could have done that.
So, something else, Aristocats.
Oh my god, T. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good film.
Classic Disney like that. And
But also, the real villain is that daft old woman who leaves all the money to her cats.
Yeah.
True.
Oh my god, it's awful.
Not to charity, just to the cat.
Just to the cats. Just to the cats.
Oh, what else?
I know this isn't really a kids' film, but the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland.
I enjoyed those. I love the original animated one, and I read the books constantly as a kid.
On books, this is what I was going to say earlier, on books is like reading above your age. I read The Golden Compass when I was like 10.
Terrible movie though.
Terrible.
Have you guys seen the BBC series? It's on
I've seen
iPlayer.
one episode.
I've seen a
need to
few.
watch it.
I've seen a few. It's quite good though.
It does look really good. That was
Because I read The Golden Compass and loved it. I fought my way through The Subtle Knife. I didn't like that one as much, and I gave up halfway through The Amber Spyglass. It's like, Philip Pullman, calm your tits.
It's literally. What was I? Willy Wonka. Charlie.
Willy Wonka. The original with Gene Wilder's a horror movie. Let's be fair.
Oh, yeah, I mean they both are, to be honest. Like,
But also,
I love the remake because it's like the food, the bit with the chocolate and all that, and the sweet like sort of like bit, you know, and all that, and all grass and shit. It makes me hungry every time.
but theory, Oompa Loompas are just short drag queens because the shade. Speaking of kids' books that became films, like Narnia books, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
I loved those as a kid. And Tilda Swinton as the Ice Queen.
Oh my god.
Great casting.
Yeah.
She reminds me of LaRue, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LaRue.
I see
But
that.
if they remade those films again, they'd still have to get Tilda back as the Ice Queen. Like even if she's dead, like
Well, she hasn't aged. She doesn't age.
No. But yeah, superhero movies, like, you know, Avengers and all that. Like,
I am a massive Marvel fan.
I really enjoy them, but also DC's live action movies have tended to suck, but they've recently done like over the past few years 13 animated films which are incredible. I've just binged them all. But also Birds of Prey is one of the best movies I've seen in a really long time.
I'm just not a fan of
Massively
DC.
underrated, I think.
I
force myself
prefer
through the Dark Knight, like the Batman films.
I prefer DC Comics to Marvel for several reasons. One, most of my favourite characters exist in that universe. But the flagship superheroes of DC, Superman and Batman, the only thing interesting about them is their villains.
They're rich.
No, they're villains.
Well, yeah,
The villains who oppose them are the only reason I would ever watch anything with them in it. Superman is literally just like this super-powered Boy Scout, and Batman's just a rich kid who's depressed.
Yeah, I will say that even though it's not a kids' film or anything, but the Joker film with Joaquin Phoenix,
I just watched that.
incredible.
So good.
oh, Pop, you've got to watch it. Even if you're not a fan of the films, like I forced myself through the Batman films, and they were okay. I watched the Joker film, and it was stunning.
I'm wondering if Robert Pattinson in that new Batman film will redeem him from Twilight.
Maybe, but apparently he's got
Maybe so.
COVID and they've stopped filming because he got COVID. So
Oh?
It's like trying to bite fangirls' necks.
Maybe. But the thing with Marvel is I loved Marvel. What made me laugh is Pop went and saw Endgame without seeing half of the other films and messaged me and went, who's the blonde girl that just flew in at the end? I was like, you mean Captain Marvel? Like, it's like, for fuck's sake.
I really enjoyed it.
Kids TV shows just popped into my head. Captain fucking Planet.
Yeah.
I can't remember that one.
How gay was he? It was like in Speedos and a crop top. These kids, there were these 5 kids that all had rings. One for earth, air, fire, and water, and they could control those elements. And then the 5th one was like heart, and I was like, oh, piss off.
Piss off.
Yeah. I think what's a random one that I remember. I don't know if any of you remember this one. The Spooks of Bottle Bay.
What?
It's this really trippy one. Like, put it on here, but like, it's like this puppet one, and there are all these like ghosts like going around like a pier kind of thing, and the characters are ridiculous. And the theme tune is like spooks. Ooh, the spooks of Bottle Bay.
That's reminded me of I'm currently playing a game called Control. I played a game called Control, and just like really quickly, it's set in a world where like so you know Jung's archetypes, where things only become like something because you give meaning to it.
Yeah.
And it's set in a world where if so many people believe in the object can become powerful and become an object of power, so it can change things. And in this world, there's these little TV shows around this like. It's called the Federal Bureau of Control, and they're the people that like look after the objects. And there's a little TV show to teach kids about the astral realm and these objects of powers. But it's 2 puppets that are fucking evil looking. My God, I'll try and get a photo up, and I'll send one. But the person that designed them got so many tweets of like, you've given me so many nightmares, because it's so well done.
Oh God, that's like something out of the SCP Foundation.
Yeah, literally, and they're called the Threshold Kids. And it's to teach like kids about the dangers of objects of power. And every episode, you know it's starting because you will just wander across these TVs and you just hear da, 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 da. It's time.
Beware the objects of power.
Literally, it's like
beware the objects of power.
Threshold Kids. It's so good. It's so good. I found every episode. I was like, I have to watch this. But on that note, we will finish there because we've got 2 episodes from you now. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Speaking of Batman, Pop Tart looks like the effing Riddler's wife.
literally.
I am the Riddler's wife. Oh.
There is a Batman villain called the Mad Hatter who wears a top hat and does mind control. So that's Pop Tart covered.
There's a Batman villain called the Calendar Man that only strikes on certain holidays. Like,
there's a villain in DC called the Condiment King. They did him in Lego Batman. And I'm just like shit super villains. I've got a lot. I am one, so I've got a lot of time for them.
Thanks for joining us, Hens. Leave a comment down below of your favourite TV shows when you were a kid, or just any. And we will see you next time with Tea Time with Pop and Sarah. See you later, Hens.
Bye. You're all going to die down here.
But on that note, thank you for joining us, Blair. We've been talking for like 45 minutes. But
it's been a pleasure. Edit me out and you'll have an episode.
I could go on for another hour, to be honest, because there's so much we haven't mentioned.
We could always keep going and split it into part 2.
Pop?
Can do, why not?
It's up to you guys. I work till 7 AM on the nights I'm working. I'm good to go for hours, yeah.